Hello everyone, my name is Natalia Violi as a junior data analyst in this project. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for giving your time, and I'm so excited to present my finding about our plans for the upcoming influenza season in 2018. But first of all, for the informational purpose, the data source used in this project was sourced from the US Census Bureau and also from the CDC or Center for Disease Control during the time period from 2009 till 2017 as we prepare for the upcoming influenza season in 2018. So let's get started with the project overview itself. Now we see our motivation here that the United States has an influenza season where more people than usual suffer from the flu. Some people, particularly those in vulnerable population, tend to develop serious complications and end up in the hospital. Hospitals and clinics need additional staff to adequately treat these extra patients. And this is part of our goal, which is to help the medical staffing agency provide these temporary staff. And first, our objective is to determine when to send our staff. So when in here is we would like to know when is the peak season for the influenza itself. And then how many additional staff to each state. And how many in here is not about the number, but this is more about our priority. So this is part of who and where. So we would like to know which state that should be given more focus or which state that need help the most. So for example, if state A is more at risk than state B, it means that we should send more additional staff to state A rather than state B. And then this is our scope. The agency covers all hospitals in each of the 50 states of the United States, and the project will plan for the upcoming influenza season in 2018. And here we would like to know who the vulnerable population is, who is actually more vulnerable. And through this pie chart, we can see that actually the total death from people aged 65 years and over is almost twice higher than the total death from people aged under 65 years. So actually by seeing this pie chart, we can immediately know that elderly people are more vulnerable or they're more likely to experience influenza-related death. But it doesn't stop there. This leads us to continue our further analysis. We would like to validate our assumption. Is that true that elderly people are more likely to experience influenza-related death? Is there any relationship between elderly people or the death rate itself? And amazingly, our next visualization, our scatter plots, will explain it really well. So as we can see here, that the people aged 65 years and older and the total death rate, they have a positive correlation. What does it mean by the positive correlation? It means that as the value of one variable increases, then it does the value of other variable will also increase. So in this case, as the number of elderly population increases, then the number of total flu deaths will also increase. So for example, I will take a look here of one of data points that the number of elderly population is around 50,000 and then their total deaths are around 600. But now, the number of elderly population has increased to become 5 million, and then it does also the total flu death increase from the 600 then become 6,000, and then from this one we can conclude that both of them have relationship with each other. But to increase our confidence, we would also want to know whether the relationship is strong or weak. And luckily, the spread of data points in this visualization explained it really well, because as we can see here that the data points are mostly concentrated near the trend line. We don't see any data points like far away, for example here or here, because most of them they are concentrated near the trend line. It means that they have a strong relationship. We can also confirm this one with the value of correlation coefficient that is written in our interim report. We have a value of 0.9, which is close to 1, which indicate that they have a strong relationship. So we can conclude that these two variables not only have relationship, but the relationship is strong. So after knowing that the elderly people are more vulnerable, then we can continue to the next step, which is to find the vulnerable state that has higher vulnerable people living in it. So yeah, Now we are about to know which states are considered vulnerable. But first of all, we should understand, we should know the meaning of the color used in this visualization. As we can see here in the legend, the darker the blue means the more vulnerable people living in the particular state. And then the darker the red means that the higher death rate in the particular state. And now we take a look at California as an example because California here, they have the highest dark blue and also the darkest blue and also darkest red because it indicates that they have the most vulnerable people and the highest death rate. And it doesn't stop there because during my analysis, I also look at the severity rate between the top 5 vulnerable states. And in here, I would like to compare between California and Pennsylvania. And as we can see here, that Pennsylvania is in the fourth place in terms of total death rate. And this is also true because this is Pennsylvania in the fourth place. And this obvious when we see this one, Pennsylvania, it has lighter color, lighter blue, and lighter red compared to California. And this is also true because their total death is like almost a half lower than total death in California. But there is something interesting. The interesting thing is why the severity rate in Pennsylvania is higher compared to the severity rate in California. So, although their total death is like half lower than California, but knowing that their population, their vulnerable population is the least, knowing that Pennsylvania has the least of vulnerable population compared to the other 5 vulnerable states has made Pennsylvania even more severe compared to California. So if we see California here, even though they have the highest death rate, but it aligns with the number of vulnerable people that they have. But in contrast with Pennsylvania, they have the least of vulnerable population. It means they should have had lower number of total death than this value. So by seeing this information, we can know, we can gain a new insight that actually the severity rate can vary and it is not solely depend on the number of vulnerable people living in the particular area. And then next, after knowing where we should send our staff, then we also want to know when to send our staff. And this one, our line chart, we can see that the total death actually they kept repeating the same pattern, which is they started to increase in December and then January, February, and March. This also December, January, February, and March. And we can also see the other visualization when we get confirmed that actually the number of total deaths in December till March, they're even higher compared to other months. So we can conclude that actually we should send our medical staff during the winter season. And then lastly, we are entering our last page, which is our forecast and recommendation. We can see here our forecast and our estimation for the upcoming season 2018. So the forecast says that the upcoming influenza season seems to be repeating the same pattern, which is will peak during the winter season. But not only that, through this estimation, we can see the number itself. For example, here, in this is the actual one, January 2017, they have a death rate. Their death rate was around 990. And now, in the next year, in 2018, it will be around 890. So this one is 990 and this one 890. It means that it will be 100 lower than the previous year. And this is also nice. We can see the other states such as New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, and yeah, and Texas. And to sum up everything, which is our conclusion, who is the population who needs help the most? We know already they are people aged 65 years and over because they are categorized as vulnerable population and they are most likely to experience influenza related death. And then where to send additional medical staff? In here, we would like to prioritize the state that have highest vulnerable people because they have higher death rate as well. And when is the peak season? It will be during the winter. So as an analyst here, I would like to recommend to send our medical staff to California, New York, Texas, Pennsylvania, and Florida during the time period of December till March. So lastly, I would also like to provide an insight for next research, which is to find out why New York and Pennsylvania seem to have high severity rate. Is the lack of medical staff the only reason, or are there other reasons such as vaccine not being widespread? Because as we know that the vaccine itself are part of the preventive action. So that's the end of my presentation, and I just want to say thank you very much for giving your time. And if you have any additional question, I would love to give an answer. And have a great day, everyone, and thank you.